I'm Matt,
And I'm Rissa.
and we're here to coach you in how to have an exceptional life.
Today's topic is ways of being.
Today, I'm being an astronaut.
You know, that's actually not too far off topic.
Really? One of the things that we emphasize in coaching is it's not what you do, it's who you're being when you do that. So that's going to be our conversation for today is what does that mean? What are ways of being?
Is that like how you're feeling?
We'll use very similar words,
Ooh,
but they're not the same.
okay. What's an
And-
example?
Yeah. So I may wake up after having a nightmare feeling angry or defensive or upset. Those are actual feelings. They're actual body sensations that register that for me. But I have no control in that. I have no say in that. Ways of being give us our actions. So it's not that I feel angry and then I yell at people. It's that I feel angry and then I behave in a manner that is accordant with the feeling of anger or the way of being of anger. So you can see this in offices, right? Bob comes into work, Bob's snippy with people, Bob's being a jerk. Somebody's like, what is going on with you? And Bob goes, oh, the kid was screaming all night. I only got 2 hours of sleep. I'm on my last nerve right now. And then everybody goes, oh, I get it. Wait, no, the problem's still there. Bob's still being a jerk with people, right? The fact that there's an explanation is not what we're looking for. Bob feels tired. Bob feels short. Bob feels angry. The catch is in life, we tend to be however we feel.
Right.
Because it requires very little effort to change that. And so that I walk around being angry with a good excuse, which doesn't matter. It's still impacting the world, right? So when we talk about ways of being, we're talking about consciously and intentionally choosing how do I want to show up in the world. For me, I generally create being connected, being interested, being playful. Those are ones that make a difference for me because by default, I'm not those things, right? By default, I want to be alone. I want to be by myself. I don't want to interact with people and people are dumb. So why do I need to learn anything about them anyway? And when we consciously choose our ways of being, then it naturally leads us to taking actions that are aligned with that. One of the analogies I use is it's much like if you were an actor in a film and the director said, okay, great, in this scene, I need you to demonstrate that our main character is charismatic and charming. You would take different actions that would be seen by the camera than if they said, I need you to demonstrate that our character is introverted and self-reflective. You just do two different things. Neither one's good, neither one's bad, but they're both coming from a specific way of being.
Right. So we could just choose that ourselves and then act in those ways.
Just that easy. Have a great day, everybody. Right? The difficulty is, of course, one, it requires us being conscious.
Right.
And consciousness is already a hard enough thing for us to do. We live our life on autopilot, see a myriad of videos that we've already released. But the second thing is, it's very difficult for a human being to behave in a way that goes against how they currently feel in the moment.
Yeah.
You have to be conscious to it, yes, but also our brain uses a significant amount of our daily calorie budget, and our brains are still hardwired to conserve calories.
Right.
Now, that said, we do this all the time, right? There are times where you felt tired and been loving. There are times where you felt angry and been generous. We absolutely can behave independently of how we feel It's just work.
It's work. I mean, food service workers and retail workers are extremely aware of how that feels to feel one way and project a different way.
Very good. It's a great example, right? And one of the things about this to notice is it's often not the cause that gets the effect, right? I'm a jerk to Bob. Bob takes it out on other people, right? Not on me, because Bob doesn't even put the two and two together of why Bob feels that way.
Yeah.
So the key things about ways of being, there's a few things that we want to point out. One is human beings generally live life from have, do, be. Once I have the money, then I can do the vacation, and then I can finally be relaxed. Right? But that's hard because a significant part of the time, we don't have full say in what we have and even what we do, right? We do always have full say in who we be. Again, effort, but. So instead, we want to go backwards.
Right.
I be loving and thoughtful. Well, what are the things that a loving and thoughtful person would do? What would the behavior? So if I'm loving and thoughtful, I might write a love note. I might take out the trash. I might send a note to somebody on their birthday that I don't normally do those things with, right? The being gives me actions. And then by doing those actions, I have a result. I have a loving romantic relationship. I have close friendships. Sometimes the having, as you pointed out, will be a feeling, right? I have the feeling of happiness, of gratitude, of generosity, right? Nothing wrong with feelings. We love feelings, right? But feelings are a having, even though we often use the same words for a feeling that we do for a way of being, right? There are times in my life I do feel powerful. Great, right? But it is distinct from being powerful, creating it as a way of being, even when I may have no evidence that supports it. I can still be powerful, and then what are the things a powerful person would do, which then gives me results. Often those results reinforce the way of being as well.
Yeah, and I think the important part of that, like with all of the things we talk about, is the agency, knowing that we can make choices about what we want or how we want to show up in the world, regardless of how we're feeling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, requires one, noticing, right? Being conscious and present to it. And then two, it's actual work. It consumes calories just like working out does. But just like working out, it is also a skill. And the more we practice it, the easier it becomes for us. And so I don't ever tell anybody that they can let go of their feelings, right? Or they'll never feel angry ever again. But one of the things that clients notice is the more they practice being patient, calm, loving, whatever would impact the feeling of anger, it does sort of reinforce itself. It becomes a practice and a skill that does become almost muscle memory and habit.
You talked about like when someone has like enough money, they can go on the vacation and be relaxed. The end result is be this relaxed person.
Yeah.
So let's take that to the beginning again. Like if you are being a relaxed person, what are things that you can do for that? You know, meditate. You can make sure you have time for naps or breaks. You can, you know, find small vacations you can go on to like feel relaxed or have time to recharge.
Absolutely. You know, how do I hire a babysitter so that we can get a night alone, even if we don't leave, right? Can I send the kid to somewhere else if that's the situation, right? It's how do I get there, right? And, you know, as we said with have, do, be, with the vacation analogy, right? The key to realize, and this is where people get confused, is the end result isn't actually being relaxed. It's actually having the feeling of being relaxed.
Yeah.
If it was actually being relaxed, then 5 hours before my flight, back to work after my vacation where I know things have piled up, I wouldn't have the experience of, oh, I just can't do it. Or you hear people who say, I need a vacation from my vacation, right? That's how you know it's a feeling, not a way of being, because the way of being you would just have to consciously create over and over and over again.
Well, especially if like you're putting so much pressure on something fixing things, like a vacation, it's probably not going to be as relaxing or enjoyable when you've put a lot of pressure on it.
Exactly. Exactly.
One thing before we wrap up that I want to talk through, though, is the difference between like authenticity. I don't want us to just ignore our feelings and stuff them down and just be like, I would like to be happy, so I'm going to ignore all these negative feelings and try to just be happy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I love the analogy you gave about, being in the service industry, right? We have feelings.
Yeah.
They exist in actuality. Now, they're body sensations that our mind, says, okay, this sensation is this, right? Go back to the analogy that, excitement and fear both have the same, physical responses. But that said, I want people to notice their feelings.
Right.
I don't want people to pretend that they don't have feelings. Right? If I feel tired, I feel tired. Yep. To ignore that and go, well, I'm going to run a marathon today. That's a terrible idea, right? You have actual body sensation.
I'm being energized.
Exactly. I am being energetic. Sometimes being energetic looks like making sure you're taking care of your body, right? Oftentimes, though, we use it as a sellout to, I don't want to be inauthentic. I really do hate this human being, so it's important that they know that I hate this human being, right? I don't want to lie about it.
Right.
No, it's not about stuffing down your feelings. Actually experience that. Interact with somebody. If you're feeling angry, talk to somebody, right? Watch our videos on clearing. Talk to somebody so you can get it clear, you can get that out so that you can then be in a space where you can create, okay, I feel angry, but who do I want to be known as? Because it's probably not the angry person, right? It's probably the powerful person. It's probably the successful person. It's something else. But the key is you've got to know what that something else is, and most of us don't spend any time in there.
Like the analogy you gave of like Bob who's angry at work and, he didn't get a lot of sleep because of his child keeping him up. Like being tired, being frustrated, those are the feelings he have, and those are natural, results of what happened to him. But he has some choice and agency in how he shows up. Like he could realize, I'm not going to be a great person at work today. Maybe this is the day for a sick day and just not go, sleep in, take care of yourself and show up better the next day. Or another option is showing up to work and just letting people know, like, I'm having a hard day, so I'm going to do work, but I'm going to kind of stay away from people. And if you could just kind of give me some space today, that would be great. That's a way for him to like give himself what he needs, but not hurt people and negatively impact their experience.
Exactly. And that would, another thing to remember about ways of being is they're not true, right? I can't look at Bob and know exactly who he's being, right? There's the interpretation involved. But for me, that's an example of Bob being powerful, of Bob being partnership, of Bob being a team player, of Bob being somebody who says how life goes, right? I might not be able to get Bob being happy, but that's okay. Nobody's asking to be happy every day of their life. But Bob's got to know, who does Bob want to show up as? Because again, that will dictate his actions. The catch is we don't spend time looking at who do we want to be. So then the default context just becomes, whatever my brain tells me.
My brain tells me I'm angry, so I'm angry at everyone.
And it literally is, it goes back to the formation of the brain, right? Bob mad, Bob swing club. That's it. So, wonderful. Well, let's give the people some homework.
That sounds great.
So your assignment is going to be, actually think about, who do you want to be known as? Pick one, maybe two. don't pick 3, certainly don't pick more, but pick 1 or 2 specific ways of being you'd like to show up as over the next 5 to 7 days. It might be powerful. It might be a force of nature. It might be light. It might be connection. It can be anything, right? But pick 1 or 2 ways of being that would actually inspire you to be known as, especially if they're ways that you don't always show up. And then put something in place. Use your calendar, set a daily alarm, write on your mirror with a dry erase marker, something so that it helps you remember on an ongoing basis, this is who you're committed to being. And then just be the actor. You know, the director has given you the description of how you should play the character. Go demonstrate it.
Yeah. And a really great way to reinforce this is to tell people around you who you are being for that week. And then they can remind you of when you're being that or not being that and help you stay on track.
Yeah, it's other people are one of the greatest support systems that we have. And they're also inherently for our brain one of the scariest ones. I recommend that you let go of that and do exactly as Rissa said. As always, your time and attention are incredibly valuable, and you've chosen to spend them with us. We sincerely appreciate it. Thank you.